You and 9 friends are spending the summer holidays at Crystal Lake Holiday Camp, miles away from civilization, unaware that Jason Voorhees has a filthy grotto close to the camp. At midnight on the first day, while unpacking, you notice a bloodstained mask, and with horror, you realize that Jason is waiting. Terrified, you must protect your friends from the marauding Jason and finally dispose of him before he disposes of you.
Now I need everyone to prepare themselves for absolute terror. Friday the 13th, the computer game, not Friday the 13th, that's for the NES, and not Friday the 13th, the game, that's for PS4, Xbox, Switch, and PC. Friday the 13th, the computer game, was released in 1985 for the Commodore 64 and in 1986 for the Amstrad CPC and ZX Spectrum, and is based on the film franchise. Jason is walking around stalking and killing the campers at Crystal Lake. If you can't find him on the map in all black, then he's disguised as one of the campers. I'm not sure if this means that he went full Hannibal Lecter or just went the ET route. To find out if a specific camper is Jason, you'll need to attack them. You will know you found Jason if the character's clothes turn black for a moment at the point of your weapon's impact. If not, then just keep looking. Once found, you can then freely fight Jason to try to take him out and finish the stage. There's also an option to play more defensively by getting as many campers as possible to a safe location, which will earn you points. When campers are killed, your game will pause, you'll hear a scream, and one of the 10 character icons in the bottom right of the screen will turn into a tombstone. The dead bodies are still left on the game map, so while walking around you're bound to run into a few. When you walk into a screen with a dead body in it, there's a chance that you'll receive one of 2 jump scare scenes, either a bunch of skulls or a camper being killed, accompanied by a scream. The bottom left corner of the screen displays our 3 meters to keep an eye on during the game. The first is your panic meter, which is the most interesting. As you progress through the game, you'll get more and more scared, and as you do, your hair begins to stand on end. This meter can't kill you, but whichever camper's panic level is the highest is the one that Jason will be after. To the right of that is your strength meter, which is actually your health meter. Let it reach the bottom and you die. And finally, to the right of that is your sanity meter, which acts as a timer and slowly fills in to make an image of Jason's mask. It will also fill in more every time you attack a camper who is not Jason. Even with killing everyone on the map, this gauge will take about 65 years to fill up, but if somehow it does, you will also die. The controls of the game are simple. You can move in 4 directions, and a single fire button controls picking up a weapon, dropping a weapon, switching a weapon, and attacking. Having one button control all 4 actions almost works, but can become clunky and frustrating, since you can only attack while moving side to side. You can't attack up or down at all. The issue is that if at any time you're not moving while attempting to attack, or the game doesn't recognize all of your inputs, then you'll drop your equipped weapon. Trying to pick it up mid-battle with Jason can be easier said than done sometimes, and it can quickly get you killed, which will start you from the beginning of the game. I understand that this control scheme was probably designed for a joystick with a single button, but for it to work properly, you'll need another button to separate weapon handling from attacking. I have to appreciate any game over screen that doesn't just say game over, and this one is pretty good. It's not as great as the chef's kiss that is the NES game over screen, but seriously, what is? Dying by losing your sanity will give you a different game over screen. I was hoping that there would be an ending after beating all 5 levels, but unfortunately, it just starts over. The box actually gives directions on how the developers would like you to experience the game. 1. Close and lock all the doors, windows, and curtains. 2. Turn off all lights and use a candle if necessary. 3. Make sure Granny isn't in the room. And 4. Set the computer volume at maximum. Not sure why they're dragging your grandma into this. She can handle Depression-era rationing, girdles, and childbirth, but this game is just going to be too much for her. I have to disagree with setting the volume at maximum though. These are essentially 80s Atari-esque noises, which aren't always the prettiest. There's definitely a sweet spot concerning volume to where the sound effects and soundtrack don't start giving you a headache after a while, but it's not even remotely near maximum volume. Friday the 13th, the computer game consists of 5 levels. Each time you finish one, you'll receive a bonus based on how many campers survived, and you will begin the next as a new character. The characters in order are Jerry King, Wendy Watson, Amanda Baxter, Brian Bonio Bone, and Stuart Palmer. Each one having their own personal summary, a different amount of initial health, and with the exception of Jerry and Stuart, despite them looking clearly different in their detailed picture, a different look. The map designs aren't very complex, but they're nicely shown here in a GameFAQs FAQ by David J. Stein Esquire, which I will link below. It's comprised of a 6x4 grid that wraps back around when you walk past any of the boundaries. The world actually feels relatively real due to you being able to follow Jason from screen to screen or even have Jason chase you across the map. There are 3 buildings that you can explore: a church, a barn, and a house. There are 10 weapons in the game that will fall into two categories: handheld weapons and throwing weapons. Handheld weapons include an axe, pitchfork, knife, which is almost impossible to ever land a hit with, sword, and this thing that I thought was a dinosaur bone, but the FAQ says it's a chainsaw, so that's what I'm going with. These short-range weapons do a ton more damage and are quicker than their throwing counterparts, but they require you getting much closer to Jason, who can easily stun lock and kill you. And I swear there's something weird going on with their hitboxes, because I seem to miss quite a bit when using them. Then you have your throwing weapons, which include an axe, hammer, javelin, and fork. You do not need to pick the weapon up once it is thrown, but you will have to wait for it to leave the screen in order to use it again. If you can reliably land a hit with a handheld weapon, then that's the way to go. Otherwise, find yourself a throwing weapon immediately. The last object to fall under a weapon is the cross. You pick it up just like you would any of the other weapons, however you can't attack with it. Its purpose is to be dropped into a room where it will create a sanctuary location. Here, campers cannot be killed by Jason. This is also used as a rendezvous spot for everyone to meet up at. Once the cross is placed in a room, walking into another camper will have them go to the sanctuary for safety. They may or may not get there though, as they can still be killed by Jason on the way, and once there, they can leave the room at random. If you mistakenly tell Jason where the location is, he'll go there and scare the campers away. If that happens, you'll need to pick up the cross again and move it to another room and start the process over. The music for this game is one of my bigger issues at points. When it comes to horror, whether a movie or a game, the music and sound effects are very important to create the atmosphere. It can get you scared without ever showing anything on the screen. Let's look at the NES game as an example. Regardless if you like the game or not, I think the music and intro screen set the mood incredibly well. Friday the 13th, the computer game, employs music familiar to everyone, and different areas of the map will prompt different songs to begin playing. It's not that the music isn't done well, but for the most part I think a different selection would have fit better, like a darker main theme. I understand we're going into a barn, but I really don't need to hear Old MacDonald. The game also employs a sound effects competition. Simply identify 10 of the noises you hear at Crystal Lake, fill out an entry form, and attempt to win a Eureka Color monitor. So, is this game scary? No. Being woken up at 3 AM by your cat throwing up under your bed is scarier than anything that this game has to offer, but I do like Friday the 13th, the computer game. In fact, I think I love it. I played it over a dozen times to get this footage and my thoughts together, and I'll most likely play it over a dozen more. Due to the game being randomized, going out and hunting Jason feels fresh and fun every time you play it. I know it sounds morbid, but I love the fact that the bodies of Jason's victims are left on the map for you to stumble across, and the inclusion of random jump scares is pretty ahead of its time. The biggest issues here are a single button being used for multiple actions, the hitboxes of some of the handheld weapons, and a few of the music choices. Adjust those things and it'll be even more enjoyable than it already is. Yes, it has flaws, but it's a quick game that's fun to pick up and play whenever you have about 10 minutes to kill. Next time we'll be taking a look at Jason Voorhees in Mortal Kombat X and XL. Stay nerdy, I'm out.
Getting your nerd on, getting your nerd on, getting your nerd on.
I got a raging nerd on.